Hello everyone and welcome to Ashitech. In today's video, I will be teaching you the basics of sketching. Starting off, we can start off with a new design. To create a new design, you can simply go up to the top, and when you hover over the plus symbol, it should say new design. Clicking on this will create a new tab where if you already have one open, you can simply press the X to close it. This will be named Untitled 1 until we make some changes and actually save this. To start creating a sketch, you can simply go up to the top left and there should be two boxes basically with a plus symbol. If there is not, you can go to the Create tab and you can find Create Sketch. Clicking on this will bring up three faces, one being the Z and Y, one being the X and Y, and one being the XY. Sorry, apologies, this is the XZ. Selecting the XY plane, we will become into a window known as Sketch up in the top here. This is very useful for when you're actually creating every design and is used nearly 100% of the time. Starting off, you can see we are listed with a bunch of tools, some of which you might not have displayed here because I have these all as shortcuts because I use them the most. Starting off is ever so basically the line tool. The line tool allows us to start from a single point. To start from a simpler point, you can select this part and you can move your mouse over, seeing a measurement in millimeters and an angle of which this will lay. You can select any measurement by typing it in if the text is selected as green, or you can use to switch between tab to specify an angle. For now, we'll hit tab and go into the measurement zone. As you can see, there is a lock on this. This is because it is forever stuck there, and we can actually don't have to worry about the angle, and you choose which side. Now, if you want to exit the lock mode, you can easily press escape and it will allow you to drag. To change the degrees, you can press tab to go to it and press escape again, allowing you to free move this piece. But for now, we'll set it to 100 millimeters. You can add the millimeter part at the end on 0 degrees, creating a 100 millimeter line. Now, this is known as a dimension that helps you know how long a measurement is and can generally be deleted if you don't want it there, or can be helpful if you want to use parameters. This line tool is very useful for connecting pieces, but isn't the only tool available for sketching. Next, I will show you the rectangle. The most simplest one is the 2-point rectangle. Selecting from any point on the screen, you can select around and it will bring up two measurements, creating a rectangle, or you can create a square. Punching in measurements, you can make it as big or as small as you want. Pressing enter will include this and show you your piece being 100 by 50. You can actually edit a dimension by double clicking on it and selecting and typing in a new value. Our next tool up is the center diameter circle. Clicking on this up in the top left or go and create circle center diameter, you will notice in each panel there is an arrow. This will allow you to create different shapes on different points, all with their own purposeful use. But for now, you only need center diameter circle. Selecting anywhere on the screen, if you want to be at a center point or a coincidence or a midpoint, you can simply press and this will specify its diameter, the length it is between the left and right side of the circle. We can also punch numbers into this, whether if you want 50 millimeters, 5 centimeters, maybe even 10 centimeters, but they're all specifiable easily. Pressing enter will give us this dimension. When you hover over a dimension, you will notice that it says D4:100 millimeters. This can be very useful if you want to apply it to other measurements. By taking D4 and entering it to a new part, we have essentially created a temporary parameter that is not visible unless we go into the sketch. Changing this value will also change what is applied to it and is very useful. Say we want to enter D4 here, and all these parts are now connected, which will ultimately shrink it. Next, we can look at arcs. Arcs are not entirely useful in what I do, but they may be useful in what you do. Creating a simple 3-point arc is available through Create, Arc, and a 3-point arc. Starting from one point, we can go from anywhere on the screen across a certain distance or a random amount. We can then specify the specific height or how its actual radius is from those 2 points or diameter. We can then click on the screen and we have essentially created a point with this connected that allows us to shape it. We can grab the actual points of things and move it around, allowing us to alter the shape. Say it would be the circle, the rectangle, but unfortunately we cannot move the line because it is constrained to the origin point. Next is our polygons. These are not always useful, but a simple demo is a circumscribed polygon. As you can see, the polygon has the edges on the outside. We can specify an inner radius of maybe 50 millimeters and a face of 8, 12, or 2. Unfortunately, 2 is not available, so you could do 4, you could do 5, or you could do 6, and we'll create I believe, a pentagon? Yes, I believe, or a hexagon, one of the two. Next is our ellipse tool. This is basically like a circle, but has some extra features to specify it differently. You can set its diameter, and then you can specify its width. Say if it's 100 by 50. You'll notice when you use a random measurement, say if I go like this, it will not come up with a piece on it. But to specify that is when you enter an actual measurement, and it stays like that. You can quickly select the dimension and delete it. Next is our slots. These slots are not overly useful, but a center to center slot is usable. You can select 2 points and specify its overall radius around those 2 points. Say be 50. It will now measure 50 on the diameter, sorry, not the radius, between these 2 points. Next is our spline. We can take a fit point spline, which is commonly used to make smooth shapes. We can select a single point and go up, down, and it will ultimately smooth it out and adapt it to that shape. You'll notice some green little handles, you can imagine them like. You can grab these and you can move them around to specify its radius of which it bends at. Next is our conic curve. We can select 2 points across and go up a certain amount. This measurement, I am not entirely sure what it's about, but allows it to be taken to a certain point. I believe it specifies a half point between the two. An example would be if we take the 2 points of this rectangle, we center point it, and we go 0.5. It would now be, if we measured it from a point, let's say down here. This is not needed for you to do, but this is an example. So now this is half of that width. So yeah. Next we can look at our point. Our points can help us if we want to be able to see the point better, if we want to place points in certain spots, anywhere really across the screen onto pieces that don't have them. If we want to point across here, we can use the point. Next is text. You can apply text to nearly anything, simply clicking and dragging, and a new feature of Fusion is being able to specify the actual width of the box and many other things. So we can type something like hello world, we can add a bold or an italic effect to it. Specifying its height is very easy by selecting it or triple clicking it and then typing in a certain amount. We are able to flip this in a certain way, vertically or horizontally, and our alignment is allowed to go to the left, center, or right. We're also able to align it to the top, middle, and bottom. Say if you want it to the very center, there it is. We can also select our font from it, and the type is a text on path. Our next type. We can select a certain path that this will stretch across. So if we were to take a bunch of random keys, this will slowly go around it. Of course, this being aligned to center will center it at the length of this line. If we take it to align to left, it will start from the left side. Align to right is similar, but will start from the right side. We can also fit it to the path, so it will extend it slightly to go across it perfectly. Next is our mirror tool. The fit curves to max section will be issued at a different time. The mirror tool allows you to take any point across a piece, say this circle, and a mirror line, generally something that is straight. Unfortunately, I cannot use that. So we'll take the mirror tool, select our object, being our circle, select the mirror line tool, and selecting a line will mirror it across this perfectly, the amount of distance from that. Next is a circular pattern. The circular pattern allows us to create a pattern, well, obviously in a circle. Say if we want to take this line and we want to set our object as it, our center point would then be any point across, and we can specify the amount of pieces we want there, making it look like a damn sick blade. Next, we can select these points here, these check markers, if we want them to actually show. Well, maybe if we don't want one there, if we want to leave some space, this is very useful, using the suppress tool. As you will see, it is now 11 blades, considering that we removed one in the process. Next is our rectangular pattern. The rectangular pattern works like the circular pattern, taking an object and multiplying it over, but allows us to create it in a upwards or sideways direction, creating a whole grid of it. We can specify how high we actually want it off using the extent. We can specify a direction of which it can go, being up or to the right. We can do spacing of how much spacing is between each piece, saying we want maybe only 20 millimeters distance, and let's say maybe 4 of these with only 100 millimeters difference. Obviously these will collide with each other. You can select the quantity of each point, this being 3 and this being 4, so across being the 4 here. The distance, the directional type can be symmetric to mirror it across, or just one direction. Our quantity for up is set to 3 with a distance of 20 millimeter spacing with the same directional type. Next, we can use the projection or intersection piece. The projection tool is very useful, and I will set up an example. If I take a standard cube and I place it across the plane, I'm going to create a random one, and I'm going to enter back into the sketch by opening the sketches folder and double clicking this to edit it. Unfortunately, the cube will not show, but that is okay. So we can use the projection tool and we can select a body in the area. I'll create another sketch as an example. We can also press P, which is included with it, and we can select a specified entity or a body. If we select the body, it will select the whole thing, being this body here, and project it into our thing. If the body shape changes at all, it will adapt to that in the sketch. Next is our sketch dimension. The sketch dimension can be used across many different points of a sketch. Say from this iconic curve to here, we can specify that it be 100 millimeters long, and we can specify between these 2 points how far away they should be, say 50 millimeters. Now, of course, it's going to move that up unless we give it a coincident face, or if we connect this point with a different value. You can also use the D key to enable the dimensions. As you can see, this was an example of before where these are dimensions. If you want to specify the length of one of these points, you can type it in very easily. And it will now extend these all to 100 millimeters, I believe. Yep. Alright, that basically covers our sketch example showing the different points. It is recommended, however, that you can play around with these and use them as you will. So thank you for watching today's video in sketching. I hope you watch the next video, and I'll see you next time.